Now, if you're somewhat new to Photoshop, it's worth taking some time to take a look at the layout of the workspace to show what things do and how they work. There really is a method to the madness here. As we take a look at this image of Yosemite National Park, now we're going to do some things to this image, just briefly, to show you basically how things are laid out. This is going to reduce your frustration level in getting familiar with the program and learning how it works. Now, over on the far left is what's known as the Tools panel. Now, these are the tools, much in the same way a carpenter has tools wrapped around his waist. These are the tools. Now, when you click on each one of these tools, there's an area up here called the Options bar that dictates how the tool performs. In other words, we have auto select. If you have more than one layer over here, you can designate that. You can do groups or layers. You can do all kinds of different things with what's known as the Move tool. Same thing for the rectangular marquee tool and the lasso tool. See how the options change when you go from one tool to the next. Okay, and then the crop tool, same thing. We got a lot of different ways to use the crop tool up here. The color sampler, the spot healing brush and all of its associated tools are located here. And then the brush tool. Let's use an example of the brush tool and see how things kind of work together. So we have the brush tool. It's a tool and it has a diameter of 176 pixels, which is designated up here. And we can either increase the size of the brush with the right bracket key or reduce the size with the left bracket key. So that's how to change the size of the brush. Or we can come up here, use this slider to change the size. We can also change whether it has a hard-sided appearance or a soft or what's known as a feathered appearance by adjusting this hardness slider. So let's take a look. There's 0, which means it has the most possible feathering attached to it. Let's get rid of that drop-down box. Increase the size, and we'll click once over here to show you how that looks. Now if we come up here and change this to 100, which means that it has a very, very hard side to it, we get rid of the drop down box, we click on it, we can see that it's a definite, obvious difference in appearance. We come over to the history, check on that to get rid of those, and so on. So you understand that when you click on a tool, there's different ways to use that tool based on how you make these settings. Now the other thing you can do is change this to opacity from 100 down to 50%. This time when I click on it, you can see that you can see through the painted area. So let's go back. This area over here, well, in very loose terms, dictates where things are applied. So here are your tools. This is telling you how the tools function, and then this is going to more or less tell you where things are going to go. All right, so we take a look at the layers palette. We can see that if we reduce the size of the brush, and I run the opacity back up to 100%, and I just come across very simply like that. This is on the top layer. If I click on the next layer, disconnect the top, and then do this, then obviously what I drew on this layer appears here and not on the top. So it all works together. Everything works together in Photoshop, and after you experiment, come in and play around. You can't hurt anything, so just feel free to just start clicking and moving just to see how things work. And we're going to go over each of these tools individually and explain to you how they work, because I know when I first started using Photoshop, I would click on a tool, come over and start using it. It wasn't doing what I thought it would do or what I wanted it to do, and I really didn't know what to do to fix the problem. It took me a lot longer to figure out my mistake than I'm hoping it's going to be for you, because I'm going to teach you not only how to use the resource, but how to use things properly. Now the menu area up here has a lot of things on it. This is where your plugins will be located, your NIC software, your noise reduction programs, all your plugins are going to show right here. And I don't have those installed on this version of CS6, but they would show up here, and then this is where you would access them. And of course, the type panels, the layers, the image, anything to do with an image, the image size, your auto correction functions are right here. So you just run your cursor over the word and then just kind of go down and say, oh, okay, this is what's in these different areas. And you're not going to use all of these all the time, but at some point you definitely will. Two of the areas you're going to use a lot under image, adjustments, and then of course your black and white adjustments are done here. Your color balance, your hue and saturation, vibrance, all kinds of different stuff, shadows and highlights. We're going to use this a lot. Your HDR toning. So this image adjustments drop down list we're going to use a whole lot. Also image size. This is how to size your image both for the internet and for prints. So you can see there's a lot up here to help you with your work. Let's take a look over on this side, and here we have the layers palette, and we're definitely going to go over in detail what layers are and how they work. Here are your history states. If I want to get rid of those brush strokes, I just come back to a point before I wrote them in there or drew them in there. This is where your actions are located. The adjustment layers are all located right here. Your layer styles, all this stuff is located right here. Your colors, your swatches, your quick access areas. In other words, if you want to do type or text, these are the controls for the text area. Okay, so don't be afraid to come in and experiment, load in an image, and then experiment. Just click on something and see what it does. Make a mental note, move on, try the next thing, and so on. You can't hurt anything. If you get bogged down, come to the history palette and then just back up. And if you get stuck on something, come back to this course and click on the tool that's giving you problems, and you should be able to figure things out from there. So there you have an overview of the workspace that should get you started in Photoshop CS6.